Welcome, everybody, to the Inside Blue White podcast. Today's guest is the marketing manager for Blue White. Please give a warm welcome to Karley.
What's that loop you do at the end where the various cuts of us trying to record?
Since I'm on the video, I stopped doing that. Conveniently, right? I don't do that anymore. Yeah.
Reminiscing.
Oh, God. Okay. Welcome, Karley. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing great. For those who don't know, you are the marketing manager for Blue White. Maybe before we dive in, what are some of your roles and responsibilities for Blue White?
Absolutely. So in my role as marketing manager, I'm in charge of our competitive analysis, our product management, our CRM system, and our trade shows and events.
Trade shows and events. So we got a couple of big trade shows coming up. I'm going to put the flyer up on the screen in a little bit, but we got, ACE at the end of the month in August, beginning of August? Tri-State. Coming up at the beginning of the month of August. And then we got our big show, WEFTech, coming up. So speaking of trade shows, what are some of your goals that you set for yourself going into these trade shows?
Yeah. So I think kind of everyone has this standard basis of how you measure how successful a trade show is. A lot of times that has to do with the number of leads you receive or you scan during the course of the show at your booth. So oftentimes we have that wherever we can, and we do use that as like a unit of measure. But there are kind of other areas that we like to expand and kind of like to monitor, if you will. Kind of some of that being voice of customer feedback, interaction with our local distributors who are present at the show, feedback, interaction with the end user regarding our product, and kind of just branding in general, making sure that our brand name is out there and people associate it with the products that we manufacture.
Those are good points to bring up. And then, so how specifically do you measure your success at the trade show?
So, like I mentioned, we always have leads, right? And kind of part of that process within the CRM is measuring how long the buying cycle is and what they're interested in, and kind of how far it maybe took, and kind of what stage that they're in. But kind of beyond that, and kind of going back to what we mentioned earlier with just interaction with the end user and our distributors, right? I think our trade show is the perfect opportunity to get the trifecta of everything that you wish for incredibly quickly, kind of given the circumstance. Not only do you have your regional sales managers who are there working the booth, your presence as a brand and your product, and then last but not least, you have the customer, right? So you have the opportunity to see them interact with the product. They can see the product working the way that it should be working, which is live and pumping water in our case. But you can hear them, how they're discussing the product. You can hear the questions that they're asking, what they're concerned about. And then you can put a face to a name, right? Oftentimes, people are reaching out via email or phone call.
Right, yeah.
And with a regional sales manager there, it's, oh, hi, I've spoken to you before. Oh, it's great to see you. It's great to put a face to a name. So it kind of humanizes that element of, everyone's human, everyone works here, it's great to see everybody, but it's that trifecta, right? Of course, you want that feedback, but oftentimes that feedback comes in the form of a survey and maybe a phone call or a reply to an email, and with a trade show, you get to see those nuances, right? You get to see the verbiage that customer is using, and you can kind of see their body language, and the nuances that you couldn't tell through a survey of any sort.
Mm-hmm.
And that can often uncover more things than you ever thought possible, which can then kind of cause you to rethink, how you are framing your particular product at the next trade show, or even on the website or on a data sheet, or, we can, give you an idea to shoot a video to answer a question that maybe a customer asked us. It's like, this is a great idea for a video. Let's shoot it, right? So that's just, trade shows are the perfect opportunity to get that.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to get a lot of good feedback. Also, I never really thought about having that trifecta where you have all three of those things in the same place at the same time.
Yeah.
Where it's like the only opportunity to get everybody kind of together with the product, with our branding, and with the sales managers, everybody there at the same time.
Yeah.
So.
And oftentimes it feeds off of each other, right? It's maybe it's the first interaction that they've had with our full lineup of product. Maybe they only know us, through one product that they have on site. And, that trade shows the opportunity to see our entire product lineup and our entire product lineup live, and then be able to ask, a regional sales manager a couple of questions about maybe a project that they're working on or an issue that they're having. And that's immediate feedback, right? Like the customer leaves satisfied because they have their answer and they see the product working the way that it should be working, right? It's accurate, it's simple, and it's easy to interact with.
Yeah, I think that's a great opportunity. So we got WEFTEC coming up.
Yes.
Starting to ramp up, starting to stress out about it. Can you maybe talk briefly about the cycle of how that trade show goes from beginning to end for people that don't know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think with trade shows in general, right, once you're kind of out of kind of the budget phase and kind of the calendar, and you've identified and finalized your calendar for the following year, you kind of transition into the next phase, right? So a lot of times, especially with the larger trade shows like WEFTEC is, well in advance, a year out, where you're located, what size your booth will be, and it's a bit more involved in how you show up, right? So after we finalize that, then in a couple of months leading up to it, then kind of discussions with the sales team, with my boss, Taylor, we kind of dive into what products we want to display, is there any newness we want to highlight, and what live displays we're going to go with at WEFTEC this year, right? And I think that's kind of a core thing that we do. It's a core value for us is utilizing live displays to show the accuracy of our product, to show the pump working. I think there's nothing better than that. It draws the person in. We stand by our product, and there's nothing like showing up to a trade show and not having electricity and not turning your pump on. That doesn't really communicate the right message, right?
Yeah.
So, we start with kind of discussions, high level with our sales, with our director of sales. And then that kind of, I dive into additional meetings with engineering, where, hey, this is what we want to do, or hey, this worked out last year, or we want to expand on this. And kind of that's the challenge that I try and tackle every year. It's refreshing the booth in some way so that people don't see the same thing year over year. It's something new, it's something different. We're highlighting a different aspect of the pump, or in this instance, maybe a skid system or whatever it may be, but it's new and it feels welcoming and it's something exciting. And so that's, what I work with Hip in engineering. He's amazing. And we start planning, our first meeting for WEFTEC of this year took place, I think, in February. January, February.
Holy cow.
So it's just kind of, identifying and challenging ourselves to think outside the box. And, once we kind of have a rough idea, then it transitions to, what product do we need? What maybe I need to place an order if we're highlighting something in particular. If it's a new product launch, it's, making sure that we have that in advance and we can test. We obviously test all of our live displays before we ship out. So it's all of those things. And then kind of the closer that you get, you kind of have more to do with the trade show itself. And so in that instance, it's purchasing electrical for the booth or mapping the electrical locations for whatever displays you have. It's purchasing vacuuming or organizing shipping, right? Our booth is stored off site. So probably, 3 to 4 months before the show starts or the show happens, I'll coordinate with our transportation team and our storage facility as to when we want to pull the booth out and what I anticipate the number of pallets being. And then the transportation team will give me a date that they want to pick up our product to make sure that it goes to the advanced warehouse. And kind of that is the date that I work back from is, a week or two before that is our testing to confirm that all of our live displays and pumps are functioning. And, we have all of the different things that we would need to put on a successful trade show. And then it ships out. And kind of there's a couple of weeks in between it arriving to the advanced warehouse and then when show site setup begins. And then we set up the booth, the exhibit happens, we break down, we have a great successful show, and then it comes back and we break it down and put it into inventory and prep for the next one.
Sounds pretty simple.
Yeah.
Sounds really easy. I'm just kidding. No, that sounds very overwhelming, and I couldn't wrap my head around half of that. You're talking about creative displays. I've seen some pretty creative ones with the Orbeez, and there was one with like some oil. I forget with like a LED light.
Yep.
So what's some of the most creative, I guess, live demonstrations that you can recall from past trade shows?
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned Orbeez, right? We put Orbeez in our launch of our M5, which is the largest peristaltic pump on the market. And kind of what we did there was it was just showcasing that it could pump that. But with it being a peristaltic pump, it started breaking apart the Orbeez, which showcased the pump's functionality of being able to pump a slurry type material, which is an introduction of, if you will, of a customer walking by and referencing maybe, a dirty colored water with chunks in it and relating that back to how they currently use their pump. And, that's always a conversation starter. In addition to the fact that the size of the pump is an eyesore. Yeah. It's a huge pump to begin with. So it's just kind of expanding on that and pulling in the customer so that they can see that. I think the second one you mentioned is the lava lamps, right? So
that was it, yeah. The lava
I love those lava lamps. We've gone through a couple of different iterations, right? But one of the things that we utilize with that is just showcasing the peristaltic pumps technology of the laminar flow, so that it's consistently pumping those little drops. And we do that to showcase the smoothness, obviously. But then when we put it next to our MD1, which is our multi-diaphragm metering pump, it basically mimics that laminar flow, right? The diaphragm, the dual diaphragm technology means that when one area or when one side is in suction, the other is in discharge. So you really get to see a side-by-side presentation of the laminar flow that is normally produced by a peristaltic pump. And that visualization really opens the eyes of the end user to that kind of technology, right? It kind of turns it on its head, right? When everyone thinks about the diaphragm, they think of the slugging motion and kind of that pulse in between and the push of the diaphragm when it pushes
that dead zone.
Yeah, exactly. When it pushes that chemical through. That doesn't happen with the MD1. So that's just another avenue that we're communicating the benefits of it, and they can see it, right? I think that's one of the biggest things is that they're seeing it live themselves. There's, it's not cut behind a camera. It's not, shot in a studio of any sort. It's just, hey, we're showing up to a trade show. This is a live demonstration, and you can see it yourself, right? We take it a step further when we have like a miniature skid system, if you will, and we have like a little fish tank underneath it, and we have a foot valve that's connected to the suction side of the pump, and all it's doing is you pull the suction side out of that fish tank, and it basically begins sucking in air. So you're introducing air into the system. And kind of once you see that, and you're really able to see it with the water dyed blue, and then you reintroduce that foot valve into the water, you can see the MD1 overcoming that with no issue. So then it just immediately starts repriming itself. You don't have to do anything at all. And that's, again, another benefit that we don't have to explain. It's really self-explanatory in that way.
And that's supposed to mimic off-gassing, right? The
Yes.
sodium hypochlorite.
Yes.
Off-gassing.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's a very common chemical in our industry, and so it's something that a lot of end users are very, very familiar with, right? So when we present that, we're presenting a solution to a pre-existing problem that, like I said, they're very, very well knowledgeable about.
Yeah.
So it's just showing a solution.
Yeah. I think it's really great that we have all these live demonstrations instead of just having pumps out there, maybe plugged in, and then you can kind of play with the user interface. But seeing these live demonstrations, I think those are very smart marketing
Yeah, absolutely.
demonstration.
Yeah.
I think everybody can relate to going to trade shows or conferences or conventions. What are some things that maybe you can say go on behind the scenes that people don't know?
Yeah, I think there's a long list. I think anyone who's done trade shows or events very well understands. But to me, the biggest thing is the details aspect of it. It's kind of a perfect storm of planning, and you kind of have to be on time and make sure that things are flowing properly, because there are so many moving pieces, and you have control over some aspects of them, and then others are fully outside of your control. So all you're doing is managing the chaos on that side of things, and managing your response to that, and preparing the best that you can. So it's just, the level of detail from, when we test our live displays, it's, how much water are we using? What parts do we think will need to be replaced on site? Extra tubing in the event something gets cut too short. All the parts associated with it. If something happens in the material handling process or during the transportation phase, what's a backup, right? It's, you never show up to a trade show just utilizing plan A. There's,
right.
Always plan A, B,
Yeah.
C, and D. And it's constantly evolving, right? There's a lot of, things going on. And so it's just a level of detail, right? It's making sure that you're overly communicating, but you're managing.
Interesting to know, because while we do make great products, things can break in transition, or somebody drops something. So that wouldn't have occurred to me to have spare parts, but that's great that you do.
Yeah, there's things that are outside of your control, right? And the material handling process, some people aren't going to treat the product the way that you treat it, right? They don't know kind of the behind the scenes, or they don't know how a live demonstration gets set up. So in their eyes, it may be something totally insignificant, but that part in particular maybe make or break your live demonstration. So in that instance, it's just making sure that you do have a backup on site and readily available, and kind of even taking it a step further during the show, right? It's a kind of a game you play of managing when you stick on your empty labels on your crates to make sure that you do get them returned to you in a timely manner. I don't know if everyone will get that, but I didn't get that. It's something that it's it happens a lot with trade shows, but you're always playing the game of making sure that that's your backups or your parts or accessories that you need to have a successful trade show are in the booth, but they're not seen. So you have that backup, and right before you stick that empty label on the crate and send it back to storage, you're running through a checklist in your mind of, okay, what do I think could happen? What do I feel will never happen? What do I want as just in case? It's standard tool set, maybe some towels, maybe additional dye, whatever it may be. You want it to be stored in some way in the booth, but you just don't want the end user that walks into your booth to see it.
See a giant toolbox like hanging out the back. Yeah, I understand
Exactly.
that. Yeah. So you've gone to numerous trade shows. What's your biggest like moment, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, so I think there have been a few. And I think the first one that comes to mind is a shipping incident. I arrived on site to a trade show where I anticipated a pallet to be there at the booth. Because traditionally I always ship to the advanced warehouse. This pallet in particular left direct to show site, and it should have arrived the day before. So there was a little bit of padding there just to ensure that it arrived on time. But when I showed up to the booth, it was not there. And
Oh my God.
come to find out, it was stuck in a random distribution center in Iowa, which was very far away from where the trade show was happening.
Where was the trade show at?
In Chicago.
Oh yeah, that's pretty far away.
So I basically, over the course of the next 48 hours, was on the phone with the logistics company trying to identify and kind of work with their team to say, I need this pallet here on this date at this time. What can you do to help me? You know, here are my options. Here's what I can do. I can meet you in the middle. And ultimately, you know, through a string of phone calls and some help on their end, we were able to get that pallet moving on the first train out. So we did end up getting it. Thankfully, you know, one of our sales managers and distributors were helpful in helping me pick up the product and then transferring it to the booth. But that was kind of, you know, the first, you know, shock of shipping, if you will, in the trade show sector. It's always shipped to the advanced warehouse. You can always ship early, but you can't ship late.
Yeah.
And that's really, really important because you want product in your booth and you want your booth to show up. So that was, you know, it's now something that's standard practice in my checklist before going into a trade show. It's, you know, we're going to pick out a date on the calendar of maybe a couple of days before the advanced warehouse closes, and, you know, how long it takes to get there. And I'm going to build that into the calendar that we use internally as a management tool to say, I need this product here. I need the parts here. I need the live displays here. Here's when we're going to, you know, build the pallet, and here's when the pallet gets picked up. So it's always kind of having that buffer of time frame. Things always happen. But like I said, you can always ship early. You can't ship late.
Man. That must have been very stressful.
Yeah.
Looking back at all these other trade shows, what are something that was
Unexpected.
I'm stuck in a loop. Okay. Do you have any stories about some things that were unexpected or creative that happened at the trade show booths?
Yeah, no, actually
Over the years?
It was something that came to mind really recently, but kind of last year during our calendar run of trade shows, we had one of our customers come up to our booth, and we had a live skid display, pumping water and showcasing its functionality. And so this customer came up with a group of students and was explaining the different components of the skid, why it was important to have it from a safety perspective, how it's utilized, what the pump does. And he was, you know, explaining how accurate the pump was and how important that was in the skid system. And so he was really taking the time to teach, you know, some of the students, and I think a couple were some engineers. So it was a mix, but it was really cool to kind of hear a customer speak to a group of people that were not, you know, it wasn't affiliated with Blue White in any way. It was so organic. We weren't expecting him, didn't know that, you know, they were going to walk up.
Yeah.
But they just walked up and you know, easily started explaining it and talking about the benefits, and, you know, kind of standing there hearing them discuss our product and kind of their own verbiage that's comfortable was really eye-opening to me. And, you know, they felt so comfortable with a pump, even during a live display, that, you know, they started kind of discussing the software features. It was, you know, one of our M3s, and kind of navigating it and how easy and intuitive it was. And, you know, it was just a really cool learning opportunity, you know, to see it right then and there and, live, organic. You don't get those very often, but, they hold so much information. And it's really been something that we would love to continue to happen. And, we strive to make our booth that welcoming, but also make a product that solves the issues that our customers are facing, but doesn't overcomplicate it, right? Keeps it simple.
Right. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes for a guy or a professor, customer, just to come up to the booth like that and be comfortable enough to just start speaking and teaching a bunch of people.
I said the same thing, right? And, he didn't work for us. He wasn't in tune to kind of what we were doing, with the intent of that. It's just he was so familiar with the product, had worked on it, had installed it, interacted with it, that, he wanted to take that next step and educate kind of the next group of people coming up. And I think that's so important. So it's really cool.
I think that's really important too. I want to give maybe you and Taylor and whoever else deserves a shout out, because I think these new booths with the new branding look super clean.
Thank you.
They look elegant. I'm trying to say all the taglines. Next level. No, I'm just kidding. They look really good. And there's compliments, right, with the carpet.
Yep.
And the lighting looks great. I just think it's great. What are some changes that you and Taylor and whoever else worked on it, what are some of the changes that you guys made with this new rebrand compared to like maybe trade shows with the old brand?
Yeah. So I think kind of one of the philosophy changes that we had was simplification, right? It's in our tagline. It's something that Rob and Taylor speak a lot to kind of in the day-to-day as it is. It's, our tagline is fluid metering solutions made simple, right? And that simplification aspect of it came through in just the logo, right? It's a lot of white space. It's a lot of, letting the product speak for itself. We don't want to overcomplicate it. We don't want it too wordy. We just want you to walk up to the pump, be able to interact with it, see it working, and, take that away, and that's what our booths do, right? Especially, our latest 10 by 20, it highlights our colors, blue and white. And we really made it a point to kind of the core thing was simplification, negative space, and modification, right? So much of that booth gave us options. A lot of people know that we have two lines of product. We have municipal and industrial, and that was purposely done. That booth was purposely built with both in mind. So it's the same branding across both products. We can ship that booth to any trade show we want. It doesn't have to be a pre-existing market. We can enter a new market with it. It's not specific to the industry. And it also gives us the opportunity to switch up the product we display. We don't have to show up the same way to every single trade show. We can kind of pick and choose what we feel is relevant for that show. We can pick and choose what live displays we want. We can, this past May, we decided to hang 2 TVs instead of hanging our flow meter display. And that was because that particular trade show in that particular market didn't really have a need for our flow meters. So we took the opportunity to utilize 2 TVs to communicate how our products solved their issues and the solutions that we provided as a company. And so I think that worked out really, really well.
So you've gotten a lot of trade shows, a lot of conventions for work. Is there any trade shows or conventions that you go to outside of work? Like, what's your favorite one?
So I haven't been to a lot of conventions outside of work. I go to so many at work. I think that, I don't, there's nothing that really comes to mind. I think the only one that I've ever consistently been to is the Long Beach Grand Prix. They host a convention kind of inside the convention center, the Long Beach Convention Center. And, I'm sure as you know, fun fact, I follow IndyCar and F1. So I've grown up going to the Long Beach Grand Prix, and they pull in a bunch of different exhibitors that either sell IndyCar merch or, they sell coffee. It's kind of like an experience. There's always like a dedicated portion to the super trucks that run on Saturday and Sunday. And then the last couple of years, they've had historic Formula One cars that are private owners that get to race at the track Saturday. And so you kind of get to walk up and see the cars in person and see them fixing the cars when sometimes they unfortunately crash and it costs a lot of money. But the convention is always a place where you can find, the most knowledgeable people that they love to be there, love to hang out, love to talk. And so I always kind of make it a point every year to just walk through and see what's new and what's exciting and kind of just be immersed in an experience that is fan-centered.
Now, do you go there as a fan or you go there as a trade show employee and see like maybe stuff that you can apply to work, or how did they ship this stuff here?
Yeah.
In crates?
So I think it's hard to take off the hat. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I would first go as just a fan, just chatting and talking and interacting with people. But kind of when my brain transitions to that part and I, see a booth that's really cool or, see a fan experience that like really pulls me in, and it's, it's always the question of like, oh, how could I incorporate this into our booth, or like, what did I enjoy about that experience? What did I come away with, and how can I replicate that feeling in our booth and with our customers? It's always really interesting to see the difference between kind of a B2B convention, if you will, is, we sell through distribution. So there's kind of always some layer in between us as a manufacturing firm and our end user. However, kind of with the Long Beach convention and the IndyCar convention, it's really B2C, right? So you can purchase, right then and there at the booth and interact with people. And so it's a different conversation. It's a different approach.
Yeah.
But I find that trade shows can be universal in that layer of communication. You're still interacting with the brand. How you show up is really important. And I think that you find inspiration in kind of small things. So I'm always looking for inspiration or examining how I interact with anyone there.
Have you taken any ideas from conventions and applied it to ours?
So
trade show?
Yeah, I not anything that would work per se. For me, it's more about experience. And that
because we have a race car, right? Or race.
Yes. Okay.
So,
yeah.
So yeah.
So
no,
we have. I guess I could say that, right?
Yeah.
We have incorporated at Tri-State. Little fun fact this year. We will have a race truck in our booth that you can stop in and see and explain. And one of our distributors has been in that realm and very, very, very knowledgeable about those kinds of cars. He runs the Baja 500 every year, and so it's just again a point of conversation, right? All trade shows are human interaction, and it's kind of breaking down that wall, putting a face to a name, putting a face to a brand, and putting the customer first, right? We're all human, we all have conversations, and ultimately, the buying process should not be intimidating, and anything that we can do to simplify that process and just make it between two humans.
Yeah.
It's there's nothing better than
that. Yeah, I look at stuff in the facets of my life and try to my interest and try to apply that to this. So video making or tech writing when I was tech writing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I'm even with the number of videos or just like the different shots, the different shot angles with this podcast, right? Like,
yeah.
You've done such a good job at being able to identify things that align closely with our brand and our standards and communicate Taylor and Rob's vision, right, of changing the world.
We're growing. We're going, getting there.
I think trade shows are so important. I know that it's a form that is evolving, and it's not everyone's preference to attend. But like I said, you don't get that trifecta really anywhere else, right? And that's the whole point. And if you can make the best out of it, make the most out of it, get as much information as you can, over prepare, there's so many things that you can get out of them. And so we've really found that showing up is really important, especially kind of in our reintroduction, our rebranding, making a statement, increasing brand awareness. Taylor's done a really good job with the rebrand and, you know, kind of coming out of the COVID era, reintroducing Blue White to new industries, new distributors, new end users, and making kind of reintroducing the brand and kind of letting people see who we are, what we are, and, you know, how we can solve their issues and how we can simplify their life.
I think the mindset before the rebrand was kind of like just throwing a bunch of mud at the wall and just seeing what sticks, right? Like going to these trade shows, just kind of take everything, right?
Yeah.
And just hope something works.
Yeah, I think, you know, pre-rebrand, it was less cohesive. We didn't really have a brand identity in terms of, you know, across the board, every interaction, every trade show we exhibit, we have those core values that we utilize, and, you know, Rob speaks a lot to it in various communication, you know, driving home simplification, driving home our core values, and those are our North Star when we review the trade show calendar and we start to look at, you know, what products we're sending and what message we're communicating, right? I'll shout out Jeannie and Amparo, our advertising group.
Shout out to them.
Yeah, they're so good at not only our social media and getting things up, but also the advertisements, right? You know, we're working hand in hand, always. You know, when we go to a trade show, they're always supporting, whether it's, you know, in that trade show magazine, it's in and around the trade show, it's via sponsorship of any sort, and they're putting out, you know, the messaging externally to support, you know, our booth and driving eyes to our location to come see our product, and you know, I think that it's done a really, really good job over the last couple of years at growing our company, growing our brand name, even greater than it was before. You know, we've been a long established company for many years, and we're still family run, family owned, and those are, you know, American made. You know, those are all core things that make us really, really proud. We make an amazing product, and it takes a team of people, and we've got a really, really great team.
We have a fantastic team.
Yes.
Well, thank you for joining me today, Karley.
Thank you.
For those listening before, can you maybe look into this camera and tell us where we're going to be at in the next couple months for the trade shows coming up?
Sure. So we will be at Tri-State in Las Vegas, Nevada at the South Point Casino, and we are booth 2409 through 2417. So stop on by. We've got a couple of surprises in store. And then for WEFTech, that takes place in Chicago, Illinois this year, and we are booth 2242. So stop by. We do have some more surprises in store, and it'll be a really great experience, and we'd love to have you there.
I got to start working on WebTech stuff. Now I'm stressing out.
Yep. Here we are.
Thank you, everybody, for watching this episode of Inside Blue Eye Podcast. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you, Karley. Thank you again. Bye.
Bye. Cut. Blooper reel, go.
Hour long.